All right, I've started recording and it seems like we have a quorum here. Let's go ahead and get started. Since we had last week off, I'm trying to page back in what was going on. I know it's been a little bit light the last couple weeks. I guess let's see if people have opens.
Biggest one I'm aware of, Sean, is the instability of CI.
Yep.
Needing to rerun jobs. And we have a policy for maintainers that they do not get the rerun jobs button available to them because they're at triage level. And you need right level or above to get the rerun button.
Okay. Let me get a list of opens and then we'll come back to that. Anyone else have an open?
I guess I'll give a quick overview of the memory protections project that we had enabled and just talk about that.
Yep.
Can you demo the new features from GitHub you're using for as far as project planning?
Yes, I can.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, well, so Mike, I think we've been watching the CI as well. It looks like it's just network instability in GitHub and things that are kind of outside of our control, right? I think you'd agree with that. And so we've looked into the rerun button, and you're saying that that only shows up for people that have write access.
Correct. If you look at the, I actually got the table here. I can share for a minute here, and we can kind of stare at it. And the reason that I want us to, I think it's good for us to look at it in this meeting is one quick solution to at least providing the rerun button is to elevate all maintainers to write level. So you can see these are the default roles, permissions for, or roles for GitHub when you're using the free service of GitHub. You get finer grained stuff if you do GitHub Enterprise, but the default ones are read, triage, write, maintain, and admin. We have we have our EDK2 maintainers at triage, and we have our few administrators at the admin level. If you go down the table, the triage and the write, you know, it starts to diverge here in a few places where you see an X on triage and a check mark on write. So, you know, the ability to approve or request changes, we're going to need that eventually, and also suggest changes for requests. So that's probably not an issue. Edit wikis and private repositories. We don't have private repositories, so that doesn't apply. The ability for our maintainers to create, edit, and delete labels, we might consider that problematic in the future, right? If we're wanting to have careful control over the labels in the future, and probably have a few people that can do that action. So that's something that I have a small concern about. You know, this enable and disable auto merge on a pull request seems a bit odd, but I think branch protections might save us on that. Merge a pull request. I don't know what this push and editing comments seems odd. And then the transferring issues, acting as delegate, you know, you get to do quite a few things here was my concern when I see the number of X's to the number of checks here. Create and edit releases. You know, we probably want that reserved for our, you know, one release manager. And then here's the one I found, which was this obvious one, which was the create, edit, run, rerun, and cancel GitHub action workflows, which this is why at write permission, you can see that button, and at triage, you cannot.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And there's a few more differences here, but now we're getting to X's in both, so it doesn't matter for a lot of the rest of these. So as I said, one quick solution to this is to just elevate all EDK2 maintainers to write permissions. And we can see if we have any issues, right? I don't think we're going to have, even though there's more things possible, hopefully nobody does anything that we consider bad. And I think with protected branches, it's pretty hard to do anything against master anyways, right?
Right.
The second option for us to consider is the idea of doing a custom GitHub action that would have a bot that has write permissions with the ability to rerun, and it would listen for an issue comment for like, at Tiano Core rerun failed jobs. And if you submit that to a PR, it could look and see if you are a member of the EDK2 maintainers team and that it matches that command name, and then it would go and on the PR that the comment is left on would effectively do the same as hitting the rerun failed jobs button on behalf of the maintainer that did it. And that was the only other thing I could think of if we wanted to leave everybody at triage and enable a fine grain go do that one operation. But that requires real work to go figure out how to go implement that GitHub action.
Yeah, for sure. There is already a bot that is like the DevOps service connection or status check, thing does supply a bot where you can issue commands to it. We tried it out today on some pull requests, and it just said we didn't have sufficient privileges. It's probably tied to the same thing. I have not been able to find a table that is this definitive. I think Michael was wondering if there was a chance that some of the protections you put in place for the stable tag, at the moment, do you demote maintainers privileges right now?
They're at triage right now, but nothing below that.
And I thought there was something you guys did while the stable tag was in hard freeze that kind of blocked more.
Oh, yes, we drop them to read during the freezes, so they cannot add a label to the push label to a pull request.
Okay. And so are they still demoted to read, or are they back at triage?
Yep, they're back at triage.
Okay, so that's not what's going on. So it seems like even that bot is using probably the same logic here.
Okay. And what bot are you referring to?
So the DevOps service itself has like if you put a /AZP, I think that's what it was, you can then type help and it will respond with like the things you can do. But one of those is you can rerun the tests.
This is over on the Azure pipeline side. You're saying that from the GitHub issue comment side, you can send a command to the Azure pipelines.
Yep.
Okay.
I put a link to the PR in the chat that we ran this on, so you can see the exact command.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think the end result was we're still all blocked. And there was a bunch of documentation in there that said you needed to make your membership public and a few things, but I believe I did all those and mine were still blocked. So I don't think this will give us any better capability than we have today.
Okay. Just as far as getting something so that we're at least giving the maintainers, the ability to heal thyself instead of waiting for an admin to go hit the rerun button, do we want to elevate everybody to triage temporarily while we continue to discuss this?
I mean, I think it makes sense. I mean, I think in general, well, I was thinking that we should probably talk about and come up with a proposal for how we should structure teams, right? I think Michael will probably call out that if you want to interact with these projects, you need to be a member of the organization as well. And so, I think there's probably more work to be done on managing the membership to the Tiano Core organization so that people can interact in more meaningful ways as we pick up more GitHub features, if that's the direction things go.
I agree, and that's why I even created the EDK2 reviewers team so that everybody that's listed in maintainers.txt today can be set at as a reviewer's member or a maintainer's member, or both if they have split responsibilities. And then we can be able to manage their permissions for what they need to be able to do at that level of interaction. But I agree that they have to become what's considered officially the term from GitHub's perspective is a collaborator, which means they have to join a team in your organization in order to be considered a collaborator on that repository. And if you aren't at least that level, then there's a lot of things that you can't do from an interaction with either the pull requests or the GitHub actions and things.
Yeah. So probably defining some process, and I see that Mickey joined too. Defining some process that
Yeah, I'm here.
Once you've commented on a pull request or submitted or commented on a
Was there a
mailing list
question
item
for me or something?
Yeah, my question was, or my thought was going to be, do we need to define another role that how you become a reader essentially, so that you can interact with some of these services more. And so I don't think we don't want everyone to become a maintainer or a reviewer necessarily. But if you want to interact with projects, for example, I think you have to be a reader. So some sort of
As I said, I think the official term from GitHub's perspective is a collaborator.
Sure. Yep. And then you'd say collaborators have read access to your repo, right?
Yes, and they get permissions like for other permissions. I think like by default, new people can't even get their PR to run the CI checks without an approval from a member. So that's part of the. I think if you become a collaborator, then you no longer need permissions to run those workflows and things when you submit a PR as a submitter.
Okay, makes sense.
So,
Go ahead.
sorry, I had a little bit of an internet hiccup. Was there a question for me or something?
I think the only thing I was going to highlight was that we may need to define a way or put something in the wiki that describes how you can request to become a collaborator, which would become a member of Tiano Core with read access so that you can interact with more of the GitHub features.
Yeah, and I'm actually going through right now, I'm going through the maintainers and reviewers list for EDK2. And I have reached out to all of the listed people to make sure that they're still want to be actively involved.
Sounds good. I did see that email.
You don't get a choice. You, Michael Kenny, Leaf, Michael Kawaki, I figured you guys are stuck, and so I didn't send you the email.
Let's see. Okay, so Mike, I guess we have a short-term answer. You're good with moving them up to write access.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we should keep this as a standing agenda item to see if we want to find another solution or eventually abandon, looking into alternate solutions.
Yep. Do you think anything needs to be written up on a wiki so that everyone knows where to find the rerun button?
I think at a minimum, we should send an email to the Devil mailing list, letting everybody know that if you're a maintainer, you now have access to the rerun failed jobs button after I do the role change.
Okay, makes sense. All right, Michael Kawaki, you want to talk through the project?
Sure. Let me go ahead and share it. And I'll put a link down in the chat as well so people can directly go to it. That's the simplest link. So we're working on a work stream that kind of spawned on the mailing list for memory protections in UEFI. And this is kind of a large area of different work. And one of the things that we've struggled with in the past has been identifying how to pull the status and the different people that are working on things out of the mailing list and organize it in such a way that you can understand what's happening. And that's a little different than discussion, right? Like the discussion on the mailing list is a great way for people to be able to figure out how they want to get to an end goal, like a set of requirements or a specific change they're going to make. But it's really difficult whenever you're trying to understand what work is being done to go dig through all this conversation and figure out what was actually agreed upon. And also who's doing future work and when are they planning to get that work done. And if you're interested in helping them, how can you do something that maybe they need help with? Or how can you how can you plan to intercept their work so that you can build upon it? So those are all things that are kind of difficult to do with just kind of the way that the mailing list organizes information. So GitHub projects is one way to be able to take all of this different work that needs to be done and organize it in such a way that we can share that across the GitHub project with each other. So this is, for example, in the Tiano Core org, this project for the memory protections workstream. And we can identify, we can neatly organize what work are we doing for this larger task, who's doing it, and when do they plan to get it done. And we can have conversation for each individual item. We can also, and for each item, go in and update it. So we don't have to have a constant stream of different stuff being changed. That's what the discussion area is for. But if you actually go to an item, like let's say I go to memory, or I go to configuration interface here, and I want to see what is a minimally protected system. So in the world of memory protections, we want to define what are the minimum set of protections for a system. So if I am ever looking at something in the future and I want to go, what was agreed upon for that? It's very simple, right? I just come here, I see, oh, minimally protected system, I click it, and here it is. And if we decide to change this in the future, we don't need to change the link to the information or anything else. All we need to do is just come in and hit edit, and we can edit it. So we can change that information right there. So this can be what we agree upon for a minimally protected system. Now, we could do this in different ways, of course. Like we could say, this is what we agreed upon at this point in time, and then we could file a new issue to update the minimally protected definition. There's different ways to do that, but the point is there's flexibility. And the way that this is organized right now is GitHub has a new feature called Task List that Mike Kinney enrolled the Tiano Core organization into last week because it's in beta. And that was approved by GitHub for us to enroll into. So we have Task List enabled. And what Task List do is they allow you to hierarchically structure work items. So you can think of like these work items here as pillars, right? If someone says what's the main work involved in memory protections, these items 1 through 7 would probably be a good description of the high level areas that work is happening in. Well, we need to define how to configure the protections, how to synchronize memory information so that we can have the protections work properly. We need to think about compatibility. How is this going to work with different operating systems? How's it going to work with OpROMs, third-party EFI images, all that kind of stuff? How are we going to audit and test that the memory protections are working correctly? And if I go to this one, for example, there's even an item in here for identifying existing auditing and testing tools. So that's one item in and of itself. Because as far as I know, there's nowhere today that comprehensively documents all of the different auditing and testing tools for memory protection. So this would be a place where someone would go gather that information and we would have it documented here. And of course, because these are issues, we can assign them to people and all that kind of stuff and keep track of who's working on it. But these are the pillars. And for each pillar, what task lists do is they let you come in and see this list of tasks that make it up. So this is the configuration interface. And right now it has 7 tasks. You can easily add a new task by just clicking here and typing in what you want, and that creates a new task. So it's really easy to be able to expand the task list. One of the features that it has is the ability to draft and move tasks in and out of draft. So for example, these first two tasks here, I cannot click and go to because they're in draft state. And that's indicated because they don't have the green dot over on the side. They're just this checkbox. So if I want to convert these to a real issue, what I would do is I could type in anything I want, new draft issue, and that's going to create a new draft issue. If I want to convert any of these drafts over to a real issue, I just click this dot right here, convert, and it says convert to issue. So if I click this, it's going to take this draft that I just typed up, and now it made a real issue for it. So I can go to that issue and I can fill in information here about it. I can assign it to somebody. So if I wanted to assign this to Mike Kinney, I could do that right there, done. And I can add it to the project here as well. So it doesn't automatically add it to the project, but I can just go to projects, memory protections, and now it's a part of the memory protections project. And it says I added it to memory protections now. So it's really easy to use. If you just want to draft up ideas and not actually create an issue, you can do that and maybe get feedback on whether or not that's something that you need to do. Or maybe you can just draft it and leave it there as a reminder that in the future, that may be something that you need to worry about, but you don't really have a reason to make an issue for it now. So that's, the drafting capability is there. That's the point. Once you create an issue, you just fill it in like a normal GitHub issue. I'll use this minimally protected system one. So here I just filled it in, and it's a part of the project. One of the other things that the project does in terms of allowing you to keep track of work is it allows you to plan for iterations and milestones. So I created weekly iterations for this project because I was thinking for lower level work, we probably want to plan weekly. Like I'll roughly do this in 2 weeks, or I'll get it done in 3 weeks or whatever. So that's what the iteration is for. So if I go to the iteration here, I can choose when I want to get an issue done. And I've only made 3 iterations, and I'll add more, but for now there's just 3 of them here, and it's on a weekly basis. So like I'm saying this high level pillar might get done June 15th to June 21st. So I put that there. Now, if I go to a individual item, like I go to this minimally protected system one, that one I actually put under the iteration, the current iteration, which is June 1st through the 7th. So GitHub automatically tracks which iteration's current. And so it put it there. That's when I said this work item would get done. And you can assign it priorities, low, medium, high. So this one I just put medium. It's important for us to have this minimally protected system definition to move forward. And that's it. It's pretty simple. Now, if someone comes to this, they can give feedback right here, right? So they can come in and they can say, oh, I think we should change whatever, and then we can have a conversation, but we can always come back and update this based on the conclusion of our conversation. So it's easy for people to be able to find what the final result was of the discussion by just looking up here. And you can see that because this is part of a pillar, so one of the nice things that task lists provide is I can see this is tracked by an issue. So that means that this issue is part of a task list. So if I see this tracked by right here, it's saying this is tracked by the configuration interface issue. So this is a part of the configuration interface pillar. So I can go to that and I can see what else is part of configuration interface. Oh, it's all this stuff. And I can see that currently I'm the only person assigned to something right now. But as other people pick up these tasks, we'll be able to quickly see who's working on what for configuration interface all in this one spot. You can also link pull request to these. And although we don't do our code reviews with GitHub pull request, we can certainly, what we do is we have pull requests that we put the push label on. So inside that pull request, we can still link it to these items, and it really helps form a bridge between what was decided upon in the project and what actually got done in the code. And you can see that, for example, if I go back to this one again, that right now there's no linked pull request here. Which means that, let me see, there should be a thing here for linked. So I can enable a new column in this table called linked pull request. And that means that as these items start to have pull requests attached to them, you can see the pull request right here. And it provides a really good way to be able to connect what the work item was to the code, and you can click it and go to the pull request. And vice versa, on the pull request, it'll have a link on the right side to the issue, and you can come back to the issue. So you have a pretty good link. This is one view of the project. And you can change a lot of information here. You can change who's assigned to different things. You can change all of this stuff, right? Any column you can come in and change all on this one dashboard. So it gives you a great overview of everything going on. What's the status? What iteration is it planned for? What priority is everything, and who's working on it? If you go over to task roadmap, that provides a different view. So the table is one view of the project, but the roadmap's a different view of the project. And I haven't filled in, because people aren't assigned to these things quite yet, there's not iterations assigned to everything. But as iterations get assigned, this will kind of give a nice little view of all the iterations for the different work items and how they come together over time. So it's a different way to view the data, basically. And there's lots of different options here on how you view it. You can filter it and all that kind of stuff.
Couple quick questions, Michael.
Mhm.
So the projects here are in the scope of TianoCore, so it is possible to have tasks in different repositories, correct? Underneath the same.
Yes,
title.
that's correct. And if you come in here and you type in like new task, well, that created a draft task. Now I can convert it to an issue. And I think it'll ask me which repo. Yes, that's where
Okay.
you choose.
Okay.
Yep.
And then when you were showing issues, those are issues in the scope of a single repo. So those will show up now in our, if you go to the individual repositories and look at the issues tab at the top, you'll
Mhm.
start seeing these things there when they get linked to an issue, created issue, correct?
That's correct. So if I go to
Okay.
EDK2 right now, the ones I created there will show up in issues and you'll see them here.
Gotcha. Okay.
We can talk about like, naming convention. I just tried to prefix these with memory protections. So if someone did come to the issue section of EDK2, it'd be obvious that all of these are related to memory protections. Now another way we can do that is with labels. So that's where a lot of GitHub projects, they organize things by label. And so if you wanted to come in and see everything related to memory protections in this view, you would be able to click label and click like a memory protection label, right? And that would give you.
Do the issues have a link back to the project they're a member of, or a task list that they're a member of from the issue itself?
Yes. So if I go to like this one here, this one's one of the pillar ones, and you can see it has the projects thing right on the side.
Yep.
So every
Okay.
issue that's a part of a project will have this.
Got it.
And you can change the iteration, the priority, and all that directly from the issue if you want to.
Sure. And so it looks like that, if I were to summarize this, it's at the project level and at the task level, it's extra metadata, and it supports things like GitHub Markdown as far as capturing the details of the project and the tasks. And then after that kind of metadata, it then eventually links to issues and potentially pull requests for the detailed description of the issue or the task to perform, and then the potential code changes associated with it. So then it is a project management, but it does have links directly into the issues and PRs within the repos that are impacted.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, it's tightly integrated, I would say, with all those
Okay.
pieces. And you can see down here on the right side, there's even a link to create a branch for this issue. So if you just wanted to create a branch on your fork and you got assigned an issue, you can click that, it'll branch off and you can work on it. You can also link a pull request directly here, or you can do it from the pull request. So one of the things that you can do in GitHub pull request is whenever you're typing in your description, there are certain words you can use like fixes or resolves. And if you put resolves and you put the issue number, it'll actually automatically establish that link. So you can just go into, I'll go into one that I have open. I don't think I have many open ones, but if I go into here and I just want to say that this will resolve, let's say, issue 4499, I can just come in here and as my PR's up, I can say resolves number 4499. And you see it automatically detected that that was an issue. And then I'm just going to say update comment. And it automatically on here on the right side just changed this so that now it's linked to that issue. So if I go to the issue, it's going to show that's now a linked pull request.
Well, will that work with security issues also?
It should. I haven't tried, but I would imagine so.
Well, I mean, it's with GitHub security advisories, we may not want them public.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, this feature's in beta, Mickey. I could see advantages for complex security issues wanting this level of management of it if you have to involve lots of people and lots of code changes coordinated. But we'll have to wait and see, if we run
Yeah.
into those.
now, I don't think it's going to expose your security and like issues though, if that's what you mean by like whenever I type it here.
Yeah.
I don't think it will. I won't do it here, but you can try it on a PR. I don't think it'll find those.
Right.
Okay.
There's the pipeline stuff we talked about earlier. But yeah, so that's kind of the overview. I mean, it's not that complicated. It's just meant to be a relatively lightweight way to combine the other pieces of GitHub, like the pull requests and the issues, and be able to make sense of them. The way that I was thinking that we use this is we don't need to have all our discussions on GitHub necessarily. People can still use the mailing list. Feel free to use the mailing list to have whatever conversations they want. But as far as like the project details, so once we agree upon something in the mailing list and we say, yeah, that's a work item we need to do, that would be kind of the hint that it's time to come into the project and create a work item for that, and then describe what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then really at that point, your cover letter or whatever you send for the code could almost just be copied and pasted maybe from your issue, right? It's not like you have to do a lot of extra work. It's just that this would be the place that from a project level, we can say, oh, like this issue is being worked on by somebody and it's going to be done by this stable tag. So we can plan to pick that up on our side. And it kind of helps everyone just plan how to do the work. Or we can see someone's working on something and they need help in a certain area. Like maybe they did the PEI version of a feature, but they need help on the Dixies or version or whatever, right? It's a way for us to be able to like see what each other's doing visually and be able to react to that. The task board's another view I'll just show real quick. This one is a really easy way to see the status of different things. So for everything that has to do with memory protections, there's a done bucket, in progress, to do, and then you can kind of think about this first one as the backlog. These are things that haven't really been assigned yet to anyone. And you can you can drag and drop these. So it's really easy to use. You can just throw things into different statuses as you need to, and you can go in and assign people. So it's pretty intuitive. But I guess that's my main overview. As far as this memory protections one goes, we're going to be filling in more of the items here to kind of get the conversation started, because for all of this it's new, so people need to play around with it a bit to understand how to use it. But also as we start to put more information in here, it will spur more work items and more conversation to get done, and hopefully we can track it all here and be able to work and help each other get through these. The two main areas I guess I was looking for and I wanted to get feedback on was one of the things you can attach. So I showed iteration. Iteration I kind of think about as like sprints. So those are more granular periods of time that work gets done. But one of the other things you can assign are milestones. And milestones are bigger pit like flags in the ground, right? And for EDK2, I think it's natural that stable tags are represented as milestones. So if we vaguely wanted to say, oh, I'm working on this task and I'll get it done for 2023-05 whatever tag, that would be what the milestone's for. And you could say that it might be done by that stable tag, but my iteration it will get done is next week. right? So it's two different ways to look at the data, but the milestone helps provide that high level view of what it'll be included in. To do milestones though, I don't have permission. So if we wanted to do that, I think Mike, you or someone else would have to come in here and under milestones, well, I guess maybe I do have permission. But you'd have to decide if we want to do it. You could click new milestone and then you know, add in like a stable tag or whatever we want there. But as you can see, milestones are usually used to link issues and pull requests for a release of a project. So for EDK2, that would pretty obviously be the stable tag. Was there any concern with adding a milestone for stable, like maybe for the next upcoming two stable tags or something?
I have no issues with that, Michael. It sounds like a good idea and matches the use case here.
Okay.
I think a few months back, we talked with Lemming about doing something like that. So that for those things that were tracked here, he could add things to the milestone, and then you can obviously see what's going in. It's very similar to that wiki page that he maintains.
Yep. And he can always add links to Bugzillas for things that are still tracked in Bugzilla versus things that are being tracked here. I mean, I think the way I like to view it from what you've described here, Michael, is that this project management makes sense for new features, big, complex new features. You know, I think, you know, small bugs, you know, or small features that are done by individuals by themselves without having to collaborate with others, those may still just show up on the mailing list as patch reviews and go through Bugzilla because that's what people have been doing. And then this we can do the starting use cases for this for big features that require collaboration.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. I just want to be clear with everyone. If you go to projects under EDK2, you actually won't find anything. So don't get confused by that because this project is at the organization level. So you can have projects at a repo level or an organization level, and to allow us to be able to link issues across repos, because we're not entirely sure, I think, how the repo split's going to work here. We might actually be tracking some work in EDK2 staging, for example. So in order to allow the project to be able to have that scope, it got created at the Tiano core level. So if you go to Tiano core and you go to projects, you'll see there's 4 projects, and that's where you'll find the memory protections one.
Can you make the projects tab from EDK2 provide a link to the projects at Tiano core level?
Yes, it looks like you can. There it is. See if that does it. Yep, there, it's done.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any more questions or anything else I can show? One of the other things I think we need for this to be successful, and it kind of went back to the earlier conversation about people needing the ability to be able to kick the pipelines, is I'd like to have a bit of freedom for people to be able to organize the project that are working on it. Like I really don't want there to be someone in a strong project management role, because I think, at least at the moment, we're a very developer driven organization, right? We don't really have a lot of central organization for work that's happening. So if someone wanted to take that role up, great. But I think a lot of this work is going to fall on the developers that are working on it to be able to come in and file the issues and attach their PRs in a way that makes sense. I'm not sure that everyone right now, or at least I know that right now, everyone does not have the ability to come in here and like have this plus to add a new item. So
They might now because I gave all the maintainers write access.
all right. Let's see. I guess I just wanted to give my thoughts on like the collaboration model, is that it would be nice to have everyone that's actually working on this feature to be able to come in and you know, modify the project in a way that makes sense for how they're contributing.
So Michael, maybe you could do some tests with some of your peers, at Microsoft with less permissions to see if they can get that access and what permissions upgrades they need, because this is at the Tiano core scope, not at the EDK2 scope. So
Yep.
there's probably some extra permissions that have to be enabled, and you just have to give us a hint as to what we have to do in order to get so that I think at a minimum, we want all of our maintainers to have the ability to go manage these.
Yeah. And we did try that a bit and ran into the problems, but since you changed the permissions, we'll definitely do it again and see where things end up. But I guess it sounds like as long as you're willing to work with me on that, I think it would be nice to expand that over time, just so that the main contributors have the ability to come in and update this. Are there
Sounds good.
any?
And if we have
Thanks.
to create a new team or something like that, that has permissions to manage projects, that's fine too.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Yeah, I think so the next steps on this one are that we'll start, there will be more information being filled in these. There's a bit of exploration here on how to organize this, but I'll summarize it in an email to the mailing list that we've started this process, or at least are experimenting with this, and we'd welcome feedback. And at least for this work stream, we'd like to request that people use this so we can work together as a team in the project. And then we'll talk about permissions over time as needed, and then the labels. How do you feel about adding like a memory protection label or something like that to organize this? Is that are the labels tightly controlled, or can we add new labels?
I don't think that's necessary yet. Let's move forward without expanding labels yet, and let me know if it becomes, or bring it to this meeting and we can discuss more if the lack of labels actually causes ability to manage the project.
Okay. Yeah, the one place they help is in the they help in the issues here thing, like I showed, where you can sort, but you can filter by them. The other place they help is if you click this drop down, you can sort by labels. So that would kind of imply that we're going to create multiple labels within the memory protections project. But I agree, that's not something that's critical right now. It's just something we can keep in mind. There's a lot of other things you can sort by here. You can see. One of the other things I'll mention real quick, because it might be a little confusing, there are the task list organized things hierarchically, like I said. So if you want to see if something is inside of is being tracked by another higher level task, you can actually look at, there's this column here that can be added called tracked by, and this will tell you if a work item is part of another task list. So you can see these last two ones here, they have a tracked by item. So that means that these are both being tracked by 4487, and I can see 44, I can just hover over it and see what it is. But also I can see that 4487 goes to this one right here. So this is the parent task that's tracking these two tasks. I'll go ahead and save that. So everyone should be able to see that column now. Are there any other questions about this?
Looks great. Hopefully in Wednesday's design meeting, we can convince others to try to use it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, the OpenSSL 3.0 work might be another one that has to get done very soon, and track tasks there, that might be a good candidate as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just gives a good view of like what's left. So you kind of know what's happening. Yeah. All right. Any other opens for today?
About the C2 Python tools work, I have some update. Let me share my screen. A very quick share.
Sounds good.
Can I see my screen now?
Yep.
Yeah. I used the Gen CRC 32 as an example, and I add a new branch with GitHub's development, just as the Kubaki shows. And I create the branch here, and in that branch, I make the changes, and then make the pull request to merge from the new created branch into the master. And after that, this pull request link will automatically link with the issue. And I think it is a start of the C2 Python's showing, and I will add all the tools I have developed with these ways. And after that, these features will have the pull request link or the branch link. And I think others can see the development works status in the branch. Yeah, I will add them. Add the tools I finished these 2 weeks. Yeah, very quick sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Are you putting work up there as you work on it or just once it's done?
Some of the tools development work have been done, and I will use these ways to send them all.
Okay. And are you taking any feedback in that pull request, or are you gonna just be taking feedback over the mailing list?
I hope so to get the feedbacks from the pull request, and because I think the for the EDK2 repo, I need to still send the email. But I think for the tools development phase, I will use the pull request to trigger all.
Okay, sounds good. All right, anyone else have anything for the day? All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, bye.